As an Anunnaki, I have traversed the universe for longer than most civilizations had existed. I have borne witness to the rise and fall of countless species across innumerable worlds, planets that teemed with fledgling life in one era, only to lie cold and barren epochs later. Such was the cycle of cosmic creation and entropy. The Earth, however, had remained an anomaly that long troubled the continuum, the council of immortals tasked with cultivating new life and guarding reality itself. Despite humanity's humble beginnings as resourceful hunter-gatherers, they displayed an almost indomitable will to survive and even thrive in the harshest of environments. An inventiveness and curiosity that led them to uncover secrets of science and nature at a breakneck pace their primitive brains could scarcely comprehend. As I sat amidst a group of students in the marble halls of the Galaxon Academy, their eyes wide with wonder and curiosity, one Ventilis student dared to approach me. Ventilis were known for their insatiable drive for knowledge. His footsteps echoed through the tall arched corridors as he walked toward me, with the fearless inquisitiveness only the young possess. "Honored teacher," he said, his voice reedy but earnest, "would you share with us the story of your encounters with the humans?" I studied the eager face looking up at me expectantly. His question sparked murmurs of excitement among his peers. Tales of humanity's insolence and hubris had become legends that these young ones grew up hearing, though often steeped more in myth than truth. As the Continuum's appointed watcher of Earth, I was all too familiar with the unvarnished history of this vexing species. Perhaps it was time the next generation heard their uncensored story as well. And so I began recounting my early visits to observe the newly discovered human civilization. They had progressed rapidly from wandering tribes to establishing sprawling networks of cities, advancing from simple stone tools to mastering metalwork and machinery in a relative blink of time. I admitted, in spite of myself, a grudging admiration for their scrappy resourcefulness, their driving curiosity, their will to expand and accomplish more than environmental limits should have allowed, much like the Continuum themselves during their own fledgling epochs. The students sat enraptured as I conjured images of bustling human settlements, first modest, then gleaming and teeming with life, stretching to the horizon, the people themselves as clever and creative as they were bellicose. For every great advance, they invented new weapons to wage war over land, resources, and ideological differences. But conflict and adversity only served to hone their industriousness and innovation. That unchecked ingenuity led to their greatest and most alarming leap, learning to manipulate gravity itself through a process they called singing. Singing, or state-induced nano-frequency gravitonic waves, allows humans to manipulate matter at the atomic level by altering gravitational forces. Through precise modulation of graviton particles, they can change the vibrational frequency of atoms and molecules. At the quantum scale, matter exhibits both particle and wave-like properties. By fine-tuning electromagnetic fields to specific frequencies, the wave functions of atomic and subatomic particles can be shifted into different quantum states. This allows their mass and energy levels to be altered dramatically. By decreasing the binding energy between atoms, solid materials can be shifted into liquid or gaseous states. Conversely, increasing the interatomic forces can turn liquids or gases into solid matter. From levitating pebbles to felling trees to carving through mountains, all achieved in just a few generations. The implications shook me to the core. That such a primitive race could discover a means to transform matter and energy at a fundamental level portended calamity on a universal scale if allowed to develop unrestrained. And the humans showed no intention of stopping their experiments, growing more brazen in their manipulation of cosmic forces. They scarcely understood the functions of, let alone the consequences. And so at the Continuum's urging, I resumed my role as watcher over this troublesome world to intervene before humanity's tampering with gravitational forces threatened cosmic stability. While the Continuum debated possible sanctions should my efforts fail, I resolved to curb their dangerous research through patient reason and compassionate guidance. But the Continuum cautioned that humanity had proven itself indifferent to advice before, possessed of an inexhaustible drive for progress, whatever the cost, and often doing the opposite of what we suggested. out of a fear that we were diverting them from secrets and not from a position of safety. I knew the Continuum's words to be true, for I had witnessed humanity's stubbornness many times over the long cycles of their history. Again and again they rushed headlong towards peril, deaf to my gentle counsel. Their fear of the unknown and hunger for advancement made them disregard even the gravest warnings, intent as they were on pushing the boundaries of their knowledge no matter the risks. Though they viewed me with suspicion, I could not abandon them to the ruin their reckless curiosity might bring. The Continuum's patience was not infinite. Should humanity unleash forces beyond their control, sanctions would surely follow, so I resolved to make one final effort to steer them towards wisdom, though I harbored little hope they would heed me. But rather than inspire awe, wisdom, in humanity, my manifestation was met with a mixture of incredulity, skepticism, and ultimately hubris. They dismissed my warnings, claiming their mastery of cosmic secrets was their birthright, emboldened by their rapid advances. Mankind considered itself ready to seize its destiny among the stars, intoxicated as they were with their own burgeoning might. I could not help but marvel at such reckless audacity, born no doubt of their lesser yet boundlessly creative intellect that simply could not grasp the catastrophic consequences of its actions. But their schools taught little of wisdom or self-restraint, only glorifying expansion, innovation, and triumph at any price. My patience nearing its end, I unleashed a limited demonstration of my power, changing the trajectory of a small asteroid and hurtling it toward one of humanity's major northern cities, leveling dozens of towers and monuments built as testaments to mankind's false gods and industrious egos. I hoped such awesome devastation would give them pause to reflect my warnings. Yet again, humanity disappointed in its obstinacy, greeting even my awesome destructive demonstration with renewed defiance. Rather than pause their reckless research into forbidden forces, they redoubled their efforts, raging against the heavens that dared question their ascending glory. As I observed humanity's reaction from high orbit, I felt what I can only describe as a profound melancholy settling upon me. In many ways, mankind's display of indomitable resolve and indefatigable spirit reminded me so much of our own continuum in its youthful rise eons ago. That willingness to endure any trial in pursuit of enlightenment and transcendence, heedless of risk. But we too had to learn difficult lessons about consequences as we rose to claim our place as stewards of reality, only narrowly averting disaster through painful experience. It seemed such was the natural path of all developing cosmic civilizations, to court calamity in their unbridled reach for ascension, until time and tragedy must temper their pride. The humans, unfortunately, had risen too far too fast. They now had the means, although unaware of being able to undo reality, and have shown time and time again that being told that they should stop would most likely result in them blowing up the universe just to see if we were telling the truth. I decided that time alone would not alter the course of these creatures. No wisdom, teaching, or sage advice would steer them from that strange and unquenchable thirst they had to reach towards and tame the impossible. No, only pain could teach the humans, pain that would linger without language or pictures, deep in the subconscious of every human. With a heavy heart, I enacted their final sanction. To begin, I threw down a comet that wiped out a huge portion of their largest northern continent, shattering and flash boiling the ice caps in a tremendous collision that sent mountain-sized rocks, superheated steam, and dust hurtling into the stratosphere. But knowing this wasn't enough to get the result I wanted, I then triggered a long-dormant caldera to erupt violently in their second biggest continent. The combination of these cataclysmic events caused massive earthquakes and tsunamis that raced outward like the ripples from a stone cast into a pond. This was followed by a sea level increase of 400 meters in just a couple of days as the displaced water inundated coastlines worldwide. The ash and debris thrown into the atmosphere brought about a nuclear winter that would enduringly cloak the planet for thousands of years. All of humanity's technology, knowledge, and achievements now lay buried, shattered, and sunk beneath the churning waves. Their last remaining bastion of civilization was a great coastal city ringed by 3 concentric circles of water. This once proud metropolis was to stand as an example of the utter destruction their unchecked technology could unleash. I turned their own ingenuity against them and began to sing to the very bedrock beneath the city, watching impassively as its soaring towers and hapless inhabitants began to slowly but inexorably sink into the heaving earth. I briefly considered stopping, but knew they needed the full lesson to be indelibly etched into their racial memory, or they would never truly learn. But such sentimentality had no place in this decision now. With mournful resolution, I watched as much of humanity's works were swallowed by the earth itself, defiant to the last. In a cosmic blink, global civilization was reduced to scattered, struggling bands of survivors bereft of knowledge and power. It would likely take generations for humanity to reclaim even a shadow of its former glory, I reasoned, their advanced technology and complex societal structures all but erased. At last, mankind would have time it so desperately needed to reflect on its hubris and realize its folly in grasping for the stars too soon. And one day, centuries or millennia hence, perhaps they would earn the right to try again, wiser, humbler, and ready for the responsibility such cosmic knowledge entailed. As the continuum shifted our civilization's focus to other burgeoning worlds, I lingered in distant orbit, watching and waiting for that bright and troublesome spark to flare once more.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. I tried to tie it in with a lot of the Younger Dryas theories, Atlantis, things like this. It's not a really complicated story, it's not a lot to think about, just a few little different theories about ancient history and the Anunnakis and things like that, just thrown in for good measure. I actually really enjoyed writing this one, but it was pretty tough. This balance between trying to get the stories out and then trying to refine them is a balancing act. Spent a little bit too long on this one trying to refine it, I think, and ended up losing quite a lot of work through just being an idiot and making mistakes, which you shouldn't do, because that's dumb. Don't make mistakes. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, put a comment down in there. Let's spread the video, help a guy out, and we'll try and release some more videos this month, some more stories. If there's anything that you guys want to get written, any fantasies that you've got out there, then just put them down there, and if I like it, maybe I'll run with it. Who knows? Anyway, see you later. Bye bye.